The sudden disappearance of Jack Ma in November 2020 was a shock to many around the world, but to the citizens of the People's Republic of China, it wasn't much of a surprise. Jack Ma was just the latest in a long line of Chinese citizens who've disappeared. Billionaires in China have been known to disappear without a trace for long extended periods of time, with the longest disappearance being over 3 years and counting. These billionaires disappear and resurface with no explanation, and in some cases, several criminal charges with extended jail time, while some never make it back. This leads to many questions. How many billionaires have disappeared? Why do these people disappear? What is the reason behind these disappearances? And why does the Chinese government seem to get away with these actions? In today's video, I will be sharing with you the truth behind China's disappearing billionaires. But before we go any further, any mention of China or the Chinese will strictly be referring to the government. A vast majority of the Chinese population have no say or power in the actions of their government. Furtherly, I apologize for any mispronunciations I make in this video. The very first billionaire to disappear from the scene with no traces was China's richest woman, Whitney Duan. Not many people know this because Whitney has been gone for so long that many people don't even remember her. Whitney disappeared from Beijing in 2017 after closing one of the biggest deals in her development company's history. And it is noticeable that her disappearance coincided with the installation of the latest communist Chinese leader, Xi Jinping. Even now, not a single soul can provide information on Whitney. Is she dead? Is she serving an illegal sentence in a work camp facility? Well, we don't know, as Whitney Duan just dropped off the face of the earth with no explanation whatsoever. But with no sighting of her in 4 years, her case doesn't look good. The next billionaire to disappear was Fosun International chairman Guo Guangchan.
We don't have any first-hand knowledge on the situation with the Fosun chairman, so it's very important to emphasize we do not know what is happening in his case. He truly has vanished, according to Caixin magazine.
This business mogul, popularly referred to as China's Warren Buffett, vanished without a trace in December 2015, with his executives saying that he couldn't be reached despite their many efforts. Some witnesses claimed that they had seen the billionaire being taken away by Chinese security at an airport. Why exactly was Guo taken away, and what had he said or done? Well, according to his friends, family, and his company, nothing. In an attempt to calm the fear of investors though, Fosun claimed that Guo was assisting the government in certain investigations. He did however later return, but he came home with no explanation as to where he had been or what had happened, and has since then maintained a low profile. Fair to say, this is probably just a cover-up. Guo's disappearance is just the first of many. The next billionaire to disappear was fashion mogul Zhou Chengjian. Zhou is the owner of one of China's foremost fashion companies, Meta's Boneway Fashion. Zhou disappeared in January 2016, less than a month after Guo, and it was confirmed after his company paused trading on the stock market because they couldn't reach him. The only people who could provide information on his disappearance was the state-owned news channel China Daily. They claimed that Zhou was assisting with investigations, the same excuse given for Guo. A week after Zhou was released, just like Guo, he maintained a low profile. One thing that is noteworthy is how these outspoken individuals came back after their ordeal and became a recluse. This is likely due to threats of imprisonment or worse. I guess the Chinese government think that this method is the best way to keep things quiet, but in reality, their silence speaks loud. The spree continued, and the next disappearance was real estate mogul Ren Qichang. And unlike other billionaires who had disappeared, Ren didn't make it back so easily. Ren disappeared in March 2020 in a typical fashion to Guo and Zhou, but the reason for Ren's disappearance, unlike the other two, is quite apparent. Prior to his disappearance, Ren wrote and published an online essay critiquing the Chinese government and the way they had handled the outbreak of the pandemic. In the essay, Ren went all out, inferring that Xi Jinping was a clown. In less than a month, Ren had mysteriously disappeared, with his friends and family searching for him. And this one is truly a whodunit. Could it be a criminal ring who he owed money? Or maybe he went on a long underground family holiday? Or maybe it was a Chinese Communist Party he slandered only a month before. Truly a mystery. He was expelled from the Communist Party and all of his assets were seized in criminal charges and claims against him. Currently, Ren is serving an 18-year sentence on charges of receiving bribes and misuse of his power and influence as head of real estate. Ren did reappear, but only to be imprisoned on the aforementioned charges. Coming in as probably the most famous Chinese billionaire, Jack Ma joined the list of disappearing billionaires. Just like Ren, Jack at a Bund summit in October criticized the Chinese regulators and government for stifling innovation and technological growth. Of course, that didn't turn out well, as by November, Jack was summoned by the government, who proceeded to crack down sanctions on his finance and technology company Ant Group, just 2 days before it was set to trade publicly. His other company Alibaba is also under heavy investigation, claiming that it was being monopolistic. And with that, Jack Ma disappeared. Whilst many speculated that the tech billionaire was probably just trying to lie low, many believe that the government had something to do with his disappearance, especially as Jack didn't show up for the final episode of his business talent show, Africa's Business Heroes. However, Jack isn't facing jail time like Ren, but the billionaire is still under economical sanctions and has only made a public appearance once for charity. Another person of note is agricultural tycoon Sun Doru. What was his crime? Well, he spoke out about a property dispute. As a point of reference, China is a communist state, meaning all land belongs to the government, and they give land as they deem necessary or as it is bought, usually on a 75 to 100 year contract. And with this, Sun criticizing the government's method of dealing with land ownership is the equivalent of him showing resistance against the government. Well, after that, Sun mysteriously disappeared and reappeared, to which he was then sentenced to 18 years in prison on charges of picking quarrels and looking for trouble, amongst other completely real charges. Other personalities worthy of note who have disappeared after speaking up against the government include Tomorrow's group Xiao Zhenhua, who during his stay at the Four Seasons Hotel in 2017 was picked up by Chinese security, who forced him into a wheelchair with his head covered. For 4 years, the government has claimed that Xiao has been working with authorities in certain undisclosed investigations, but if you ask me, it's a pretty aggressive way of asking someone to help out with an investigation. His whereabouts still remain unfortunately unknown. Meng Hongwei, who was the former Interpol head, also vanished whilst on a trip to China, only to resurface as a prisoner, with the Chinese government sentencing him to 13 years on charges of bribery. 2 days after his disappearance, Meng allegedly resigned from his role as Interpol head, further adding to the suggestion that his disappearance was suspicious. However, different to pretty much every other case, Meng's wife has stated to anyone who cares to listen that her husband's detention was politically motivated. In some cases, some have died. Lai Xiaomin, who was the former chairman of China's Wurong Assets Management, was found guilty on charges of bribery and corruption, and was sentenced to death. The message China is portraying is pretty clear. They won't tolerate any opposition to the government, and with a lack of remotely believable reasons behind the disappearances, they don't seem to care about who knows this, or they vastly misjudge how gullible everybody else is. China has been a communist state for nearly 100 years and is determined to keep it that way. Their need to uphold a communist state could be a very central reason as to why its billionaires keep disappearing, especially when they are considered to be a threat to the system. The consistent theme in all these disappearances is that at some point these billionaires have spoken out or acted out against the government. China's crackdown on billionaires is alarming, and whilst it may seem like they're the only ones being targeted right now, they are just the names that are big enough to make it into mainstream news, or for people to notice. But what about the other billion-plus people who wouldn't go noticed to the outside world if they went missing? China as a communist nation continues to do all it can to drive the country to a full state of communism, and to do so, they need to have full control over the money in their country, hence the attacks on the billionaires. Aside from cracking down on billionaires, China also censors their country's use of social media, the internet, television, newspapers, video games, literature, and literally anything that can be censored. In recent times, celebrities have also been affected, with several actors and actresses, such as Xiao Wei, deemed as violating moral codes and virtues. This has led to their footprint on social media being wiped, her name being removed from TV series and movies she's appeared in, and banned from television. The Communist Party claims that this is all being done to reorientate the citizens to a common goal of prosperity, but that just sounds like a corny line from some dystopian movie. This wave of disappearing billionaires and sanctioning doesn't seem to be dying down anytime soon, and in 2013 the Chinese government passed a law allowing for arbitrary and secret detentions meaning the government will continue to do so given its self-proclaimed legality. So the question remains, who and what will stop them? If you've enjoyed this video, please check out my previous videos on China's economy and why it might fail soon if you are interested in that. Other than that, I will see you next time.